after all these years in business, there's such a connection with what I'm doing now because you just get an epiphany and you realize you need that mentorship. You need to put yourself out there out of your comfort zone and be a part of something greater than yourself.
All right, welcome to the Aussie Ambitions podcast. We've got a new guest here today who's traveled down actually from Brisbane. So really excited to have him and his partner on. So we're going to get some unique perspective on the world of business, how businesses are operating in Australia right now, and just some of the aspects of areas that I can relate to, digital marketing. And so really looking forward to sharing this perspective with you. We've got our guest. It's Tim Austin. Welcome, Tim.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Excellent. So Tim is a business marketing strategist, which I like that. It kind of leaves it open for lots of things. And we've just had a little warm-up chat. Can we just jump in? You tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're working on.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so my name's Tim. Like Scott said, I'm the co-founder of Traffic Coach, and I am a business consultant and marketing strategist. And this year's been like a very challenging year for everybody, and the year before with COVID, obviously. And we're really excited because we're in a really happy space to provide our services to help business owners grow and prosper, make more money, and also have a step-by-step strategy to do that. So
nice. So Traffic Coach is the name, and that covers a certain scope.
Yep.
Is it fair to say that's in the world of digital marketing and digital marketing services, or?
Yeah, look, it is. It's both. When Traffic Coach was discovered, it came in inspiration in my mind. I wanted to combine all the knowledge that I had from 10 years of business and put a unique perspective on business consulting and coaching and having the marketing services to back that up. So I knew I wanted to have something of high value so I could share, as much as my knowledge as possible where I did really, really well or didn't do very, very well, and then give that knowledge to my clients as a service base to help them succeed in their own business and obviously in their personal lives too. So
that's... I think a lot of the listeners will be interested to hear about a bit of the self-start possibility. So if someone's got some expertise, they maybe worked a day job, a regular corporate job possibly, and then it's sort of how can you flex on that and build out your own path and maybe it's your own company or it's the consulting path is quite interesting. So do you consider yourself a consultant or do you have a period of time where you were like advising people based on things that you already knew?
Yeah, well, when it first started out, it was more like we were just going to be a marketing agency with a bit of a difference, like a unique perspective. But what happened is that when you start having a relationship with somebody, they always come to you for advice or help. And I always found my biggest problem was I'd put my hand up and say, I can help you there. I can definitely give you advice. I can do that for you. So I automatically knew that because I couldn't just provide that one service, I could see the path that they were on. I could identify how they were trying to get to their goals. I knew I had to create a success formula that I could then duplicate for them. So over the past 15 months, I've been putting that together. And it's not just my own, obviously, formula. It's from all the entrepreneurs out there that provide, really beneficial advice like Gary Vee and, Grant Cardone and heaps of others. Like there's heaps of people in Australia as well, like Dale Beaumont. And you just start seeing such a strategy for success for them. So that's how it started out. And then so I knew that we had to have a process from meeting a client to getting them to where they needed to be, that roadmap. So that's what I've created with Traffic Coach. And so far we've been doing really well with it. And this year we hope to help a hell of a lot more people discover their own roadmap and get there with the consulting.
Okay.
And the training, and then also our marketing services that'll help them get there.
So it's still relatively new in the sense of rolling this out in a wide way. So you've maybe got some clients that you've worked with.
Absolutely.
But now it's just about getting towards that. Okay.
Yeah, we've incubated it, but now it's like we're absolutely 100% ready. We've got a nice little team behind us to work with a small amount of clients. And then once that is really duplicatable, and it is there, but we want to test it because it's like going slow to go fast type of thing. Yeah.
I like that. I think I'll just reinforce the main theme that we bring into these discussions, which is it's ambitions, yes, and it's the Australian perspective of what's happening here. So people from outside of Australia can have a look in, get a feel for people, and how did what are the stages that are going through in terms of starting a business? Is it
Mm,
an environment that's easier than say other areas? Is it are there certain trends and that kind of thing? So that's helpful
mm.
to look at. But the other side of it is maybe just the life goals and sort of where does this fit into the overall mix? So balance, and
Mm.
you've had some experience and you're having to deep dive in this. So does this feel like is this something that you're going through a sprint at the moment, and you're having to like really grind it out just to sort of get that first level of thing launched and roll out, or do you feel like it's going at an easy pace?
Well, probably two answers to that question. Some days I feel like, and most business people would agree with this, that some days you feel like you're on the hard grind. Then other days you feel like you're just absolutely conquering the world, right? So it's a bit of both, and I think it's always going to be a bit of both. But I always find that mindset's the most important, because if you tell yourself on a daily basis that today's going to be easy and today's going to flow the way I want it to flow, then it generally will happen that way. If you create your own resistance, own excuses, get frustrated a bit too much, and don't take a chance to walk away from something that's maybe frustrating you, then yeah, you'll be on the grind for sure. But I've noticed that the very best way to do it is to just be patient, remain calm, and good things come to those who have a good mindset and focus on themselves. Everything comes from within and goes out. So,
Hmm.
yeah,
Again, the interesting thing for me is, I mean, I can relate in the marketing world and some of the the tools you're probably using and things like
yeah,
that. But
yeah,
where do you look for inspiration? Are you looking within your personal network here in Australia, or is it sort of this global? You mentioned Gary
yeah,
and some of the other experts.
yeah.
Do you consider yourself in the mix with the global aspect of things, or is it really just what's going to make it work here in Australia, and you do your homework here?
Yeah, it kind of depends. If it's client research, then it can be anywhere and everywhere. If it's for myself and understanding how digital marketing trends are happening, or what's a new, I call guerrilla hack to maybe getting more leads for a client, or whatever it might be, it's global. I think a lot more than it is in Australia. I feel like Australia has a lot more to offer in regards to catching up with what technology is out there and how easy it can make your life in a positive way. And I feel like Aussies, they don't have Aussie business owners don't have the time maybe to research and find all this information out, because sometimes people seem to feel like they need to hold on to all this value and not share it with the world. And I think making time for self development and personal development in the business world is lacking. I mean, people just don't they just don't make the time to make it happen. So I think it is very global. I mean, I've read a lot of different books from a lot of different people, but there's some really inspirational people inside our country, I think, that need a bigger voice on the main stage if you're talking about global.
Hmm.
Yeah. Mm.
That might be a good chance just to talk about yourself personally and where you're, say, born and raised, and where do you come from?
Yeah.
So you're living in Brisbane now?
Yeah, living in Brisbane now.
What about before that? Where do you come from?
Yeah, interesting story. Actually, a country boy. Moved to the country. Mum and dad decided to move to the country. Population of 300 people. The town was called Alpha. It's in Western Queensland. And they decided to move there because they wanted to raise, I suppose, a child in that environment where safe, practical. They could teach all those great family values in that environment. They didn't feel like they could do that in the city. That was their decision. But yeah, I grew up basically being the farm kid. That was my life. And but for some reason, during that time, I always had this inspiration inside of me to do more and want more, have more. And that led to, first and foremost, me wanting to hunt for the best career that paid me the most money. That was my goal as a young fella. But that quickly changed to being, no matter what role I had, operations manager, whatever it was, because I was in the mines for some time, I still wasn't satisfied inside. So I decided that, yeah, I had to do something else. And that's when business came along in my world. And the first taste I got with that, well, I was super excited. I became a complete workaholic in that industry. So,
That is interesting. I was looking out for things of like perhaps ambition, like whether it's just money or
yeah,
career path or just opportunity, perhaps.
yes,
So is it country versus city? And it was like you knew
yeah,
that you needed to move to be successful, or you're going to
yeah.
try to build it up.
Well, there's different types of success for everybody, right? So my success, I had to move because after boarding school, I went to boarding school. I moved back home to work really, really hard, save some money, and then I moved to Mackay. And my very first aspiration that came into my knowing is I met a friend of my father's. He had one of those secondhand pawn shops. I think I'm fairly sure it was in Maryborough, and I was very young, and he was talking about all his real estate investments. So I automatically connected real estate with success at an early age, and knew I wanted to pursue that passion. So my very first real job in the world, in my impression, was real estate for me. That was my real job, and I got that job and did it for a few years, and I really enjoyed it and got a taste for it. So yeah, that was kind of like the journey, but the aspiration was always inside. It just was always there. I wanted to achieve so much more, and I'm really not too sure where that came from. So
Yeah, and I think mentioning inspirations and mentors, and
mm,
especially the traffic coaches, it's got coach in the name.
yeah,
So you are basically now in a position to coach others, but
yep.
would you have others that coached you to get to this point, or
That was out of everything you learn in life, especially in a business career. That was probably the biggest weakness. I was really too in the early days, not now. I'm all for it, and I've had been this way for probably a few years now. But before that, I was always not too concerned about getting a mentor, not too concerned about being involved in a circle of people that had more experience or more knowledge in a certain area, or was going in the same direction as me. So I didn't hold it to be into myself. I didn't hold it to be something that was worth looking into. But now it's like the number one thing I look for. And I think that's why, after all these years in business, there's such a connection with what I'm doing now, because you just get an epiphany and you realize you need that mentorship. You need to put yourself out there, out of your comfort zone, and be a part of something greater than yourself, and follow that line. I think, and that's I suppose that's the answer to that question. Yeah.
it's amazing the mind, isn't it? It's like, people can be type A personalities, really
Mm.
high achievers, and I guess headstrong in where they want to go.
Yes.
But it's that blinders effect, and you don't know that there's
Mm.
that opportunity sitting just to your right if you'd
Yep.
only pause,
Yeah.
and so you can definitely miss it. And
Yeah.
so maybe it's just having multiple perspectives. Do you think you need to align with like one particular? Is it sort of like a mentor protege type thing where it's one to one, or
Mm.
can you subscribe to being just like YouTube and they've got general advice which you then tune
Mm.
into?
Yeah. Look, I put a lot of thought into this a few years ago, and I used to believe my success was driven by what was in my bank account and how fast to get there. That was where it used to be for me. But what I realized is, because there's so much noise out there in regards to who you can listen to and what content you absorb to get where you want to go. So if you want to listen to Grant Cardone, that's one person. If you want to listen to somebody else, that's another person. I think you've got to align who you are and understand who you are, and align yourself with the right person that works for you, because you can take in content and knowledge, and when you do that, you might be going the wrong way, and you might not realize it until it's too late. So therefore, I think when you're looking for mentors and looking for someone to work with and bounce ideas off, just you'll know what the connection feels like. It's just straight away. You have it straight away. It maintains itself. There's integrity and respect there from the beginning. And if you find that person, then you should hold on to that relationship straight away. That's just what you should do. That's my experience anyway.
Is is the philosophy in Australia, or the general feel here, that people are willing to share knowledge? Obviously, maybe in the older days, you've got some secret formula for success, and perhaps you keep it to yourself, or you try to monetize it, or
Yep.
flex on that. What do you think? Was there a general feel here of just collaboration and just trying to help people advance
Yep.
out there, or what's your feel on that?
Yeah. Look, I think that I think that yes, people still hold on to a lot of value before they release it. But I also think that, from what I've seen, from my opinion, is that when business owners or people get burnt, they tend to hold on to that negative feeling too long, or for their whole life. And therefore, they won't share anything, or won't allow themselves to be open to a new experience, or a new person to come in and help change their direction, or help them get to their goals. Because at the end of the day, it's their goals. If they have their goals and they know what they are, they need to get there, no matter what it is, whether it's life or business, doesn't matter. But if they've been burnt too many times, and we all have, trust me, we all have, then if they hold on to that, they're not allowing themselves to bring the right people to them to then make those changes. Because I'm telling you, life is a journey and life's a road. So we're all on it, and got to be mindful. I think in what you're sharing and what content you're putting out there for yourself, but also what you're getting back in. I think that's the only way I can explain it, because that's just from me thinking about these things for the last 10 years.
Mm.
So yeah.
I think that's it's coming across pretty clearly in terms of where you've come from and what you're working on. And I'm just curious about, obviously, we're dealing with Australia and the borders, but then there's international, and you've probably traveled places. Have you done a bit of travel overseas?
Yeah, I went to Greece in 2018. That was a hell of a magic experience. It was a boys' trip,
Yep.
so off limits for chats. But no, it was really good. We had a great time, and seeing the world for the first time like that was really good for me. And I'd like to do a lot more, but obviously COVID's restricted all that now. But hopefully, very soon we'll be back onto that. But yeah, I feel like that type of travel was really important. Yeah.
Hmm. Obviously, travel can be for, like, there can be work-related travel.
Yep.
There might be a conference or something. Do
Yep.
you ever seek out perhaps like international level coaches and that kind of forum where people are actually?
Yep.
I think those exist.
Yeah, look, I've been part of 3 major groups, mostly in Australia. Dent Global was one, very good entrepreneurial group. Teach you how to really advance yourself and how to push your personal brand they teach you how to basically write a book and use your skills and put all your value into a book, and then that'll help you generate the right credibility, I guess you could say, for attracting the right people into your business, which is pretty cool. And I've been part of the Entourage group. They're both very great groups. I really enjoyed the groups. Part of a new group now called Business Blueprint, and they're my mentors, Dale Beaumont. But I found that they had the best structure system that I came across for what I needed. So how to grow, systemize, and profit from the business in a way that I just needed someone to look up to and go to when I needed something. So that was really positive. But yeah, so
That's good. I appreciate you sharing those specifics, because, again, that's not going to have a lot of necessarily awareness in an international setting. So it gives people a chance to jump onto those and
that's
really
right.
get a feel for what's happening, what kind of networking. Obviously, the big ones would be in the U.S. You got the sort of California group, Silicon Valley. You got New York. That's a base. You got all these little hubs, and
Yep.
I'm kind of fascinated in how they emerge. So
Yep.
being from Canada originally, Toronto, major city, they would have some kind of where you get these entrepreneurs coming together, and it's almost like this. It's not really competitive, but it's almost like it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it helps you feel like you're a little bit normal in the spectrum of
Yes.
things.
Yes.
Where do you feel like you fit into the fabric of society as an individual?
Yeah, good question. Not really, but not in a negative way. We all have a circle of friends and people that we, collaborate with on a daily or weekly, monthly, whatever. It was always very hard. Like, sure, I've got my mates, my friends that I hang around with that aren't in business. I got that, and I've got other people that are in business that I hang around with as well. But the general conversation touches my heart a lot more when it's with depends on how I'm feeling as a person. If I want to be a larrikin with my mates, then I'll spend time with those guys. But if I want some serious chats and really open up how I feel, then I'll have chats with people in business, because I just feel that's where I'm most comfortable, and you can share and gain so much knowledge from those conversations with those types of people. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But I still like going to the pub and having a beer. Like,
Okay.
not that we've been able to do that much lately, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think people are hanging out for that. And, is this, what's the balance here? Is
yeah,
he all work, no play, or is there some leisure in there? So,
yeah, definitely.
just on that, do you, like, on a day off, when was the last day off you took completely?
Oh, to be honest, we worked, myself and my partner, the co-founder Traffic Coach, we worked all Christmas. But that was really enjoyable for us, just because we had so much drive to complete something that we're about to launch in our business. So we did that. But to be honest, I still have some really bad traits in regards to being a workaholic. But I feel like meeting my fiance, Susie, and she's a partner of the business too, that's now been managed a lot better in a positive way, because we have a blended family of 5 kids, and we value that time because we found each other, right partners, right timing, good family unit, and it puts perspective on things to have some balance, and she helps me have that balance, and I think that's super important because I never had really great lifestyle balance. I just love to work. I love everything about business, and I love opportunity, and I love seeing other people's opportunities. So that's pretty much how it's been for me most of my life. Just work, 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 work. So,
Mm.
mm,
I like that you mentioned that. We're definitely going to have Susie on so we can get her perspective, and
yeah, great.
again, what she's going to have her own set of goals and
Yep,
mix of balance and things. But yeah, I think it's fascinating to hear that you did sort of grind through the Christmas period,
yep,
but enjoyed it. It's sort of like that
yep,
sense of fulfillment. Like, is there
yes.
an aspect where you feel like you're living exactly what you want to be doing, or is there like another thing that's on your list, perhaps 10 years from now, being like, no, I want to learn how to do X, Y, and Z. Like it's another
Yeah.
life goal somewhere sitting there.
Oh, absolutely. I think if you don't have goals personally, for long term, short term, there's nothing really to strive to. I think if I was to say one personal goal, I really like to learn the piano. To be honest, I'm a pretty decent singer, pretty decent karaoke guy. My family's got a background in music, and my father was actually quite um, predominant in the music scene in England, where he's originated from. And yeah, I would really like to get back into that. I did a lot of it when I was a child, like play guitar, drums, and stuff. But I think my major goal is after we settle down the business a little bit where we want it to be, and I mean settle it down in a way that we're super super comfortable with how it's operating, and we are. But you know what it's like as a business; there's always something to do and something to improve on. Then I would love to set up a music studio with a drum kit, guitar, all the gadgets in there, and just have that moment of time where you could just go in, it's soundproofed, and you won't have the neighbors call the police on you because you're too loud, and just have a great time, because that's kind of really enjoyable. Music's a really enjoyable thing for me. So yeah, that'd be a big one.
That's good. Like, we won't hold you to it, but we like to get those things out because it might be fun to get you back in
Yeah.
a period of time and say, look, business is sailing, but maybe you value your free time
Yep.
and you want to be adding another little fun factor to the mix.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
um, yeah, no, I think that's very interesting. So, what I was curious about is the advice that you could possibly recommend to people. So, people
Mm,
have some experience out there and they maybe aren't utilizing it. That's an opportunity.
mm.
So, is it this type of thing you think that anybody could pursue a career in, not just building a business, but going in this whole area of consulting and like providing an online type of a service?
Yep.
Do you have a feel for that business model? Is it something that anybody could do if they put the time in, or do you have to really have a passion for it?
I think anybody can achieve anything they want to achieve, really, to be honest. I think there's no restriction. We all see examples of extraordinary people out there, whether it's a a physical stoppage to why they can't do something, or they just don't feel like they have enough value to succeed in some area. I think there's no reason why you can't succeed in anything you want to do. You just have to be persistent, and you just have to continually pour knowledge into your head, and be careful not to chase shiny objects, because there's lots of those out there.
Um, and another one that jumped in my mind was the sort of the traditional path versus maybe the more fast track or the entrepreneurial path.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on like traditional educational institutions, going to uni,
Ooh,
putting
yeah.
in those years?
Look, I'm going to be a little biased on this one because I failed high school, so that's the truth. By choice, I didn't like it, didn't appreciate it, didn't enjoy it at all. Not sure exactly why. Probably because maybe a round object in a square hole. I don't know, but there's probably heaps of reasons. But look, I feel like yes, education is super important, and I feel like though mentoring is probably more important, and it's very hard in this day and age with mums and dads working and not having a lot of time for family and children and different things, different aspects like that. But traditional education, I think it's very important depending on what your personal success is. So I said this to my kids just recently. So I feel like if you wanted to be an engineer, or you wanted to be a builder, or you wanted to be a doctor, then yes, education is so important to you, and you need to strive for that goal, and you need to understand those goals. I think they understand how to learn goals from the people that are around them when they're growing up. So if they have really good role models, then they're going to be able to make some decisions early on in their life. Um, what do I think of university? Interesting fact. Marketing degree in university, I don't think you could possibly keep up, but I'm not sure. I've never done one. I'm not speaking from experience, but I think if you had a marketing degree, I think you could learn just as much by following the right training programs. You could learn it on Udemy, you could learn it on YouTube, you could opt into someone that's got a hell of a lot of credibility in the space, like Neil Patel or any one of those, inspiring digital marketers, and you could learn everything you wanted to and provide so much more value to a client. Um, and the reason I say that is because recently, well, it's not even recent, it's been a while now, I found that the trend in branding and everything like that is shifting to more, um, you know, the content doesn't have to be severely branded around the brand. It doesn't have to be, if you're a small to medium business, you don't have to focus too heavily on your brand in a way that is super credible. It's more about your connection to that end user and the message that's being sent through the content that you're putting out there. I mean, people do business with people. They don't do business with products and services necessarily. I mean, yes, big organizations they do, I believe, but small to medium business, when they're doing transactions, it seems to me that it's a personal connection, and people these days are going to brands that they have a personal connection or feel to because of the content that they're putting out there. So I think traditional education could come a long way, but I feel like you could get a really good education still and then pursue whatever you wanted to, unless you're a doctor or engineer or whatever, and be very successful in whatever you wanted to do.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's good. I think that's a perspective that people can look at and consider for themselves. Obviously, there's going to be more of a trades path, and depends on the industry. And sometimes you need to have those runs on the board. You need to have earn the stripes to prove that you've done it.
That's right.
And but I think it's to have hopes that that's going to be some kind of magic formula. I think that people should wake up and pretty much take a good look, and it's pursuing the path that you think is going to be enjoyable for you at that moment. I think that's where we want to get people to realize that there's jobs, but then there's sort of this overarching purpose for what you're working on in general in your life. So, and if you can string them together, all the better. So you got uni, you meet some cool mates, and you're learning. But to hope that that's going to be
that's the answer to all the
armed
questions.
with it's not like you can download programs like the Matrix and
unfortunately not yet. Maybe when Elon Musk does his little chip that he's talking about, maybe we could do that then.
Yeah. So you're following all that?
Yeah, I follow a little bit of it.
Neuralink?
The Neuralink, that's the one. Yeah. It's interesting how the world's changing. I think the next 10 years is going to be exceptional as long as society can stick together, and be one unit. But it's definitely an interesting world that we're in right now.
Does the future kind of excite you as an entrepreneur, or how do you feel about the future?
Look, I couldn't say anything negative. I'm concerned. Everyone's concerned, I think, across the board about heaps of different things across the world, political, hunger problems, environment. Everyone's concerned about something, I'm sure, but I'm an optimist. I think I try not to I try not to absorb too much media, to be honest, at all. I mean, I don't know anything that's going on in the COVID world until someone tells me. But that's because I'm dedicated to my journey. I only absorb the content that I need to absorb to where I'm going, and anyone that's close to me that I need to absorb that content, whether it's a message from friends or whatever it might be. That's just what I absorb. But I feel like I think there's a lot of positivity out in the world. And I feel like there's also a lot of negativity in it. But what are you going to do? I mean, it's been like this for centuries and centuries and centuries. I'm sure there's an answer to a lot of things, but I don't have those answers. So
it sounds like you developed a pretty solid person to filter, which is kind of, I think everyone's waking up to the fact that, geez, where does this end?
Yes.
And where did my day go?
Yeah, totally.
Flicking through social.
Yes. Yeah. I've got a pretty strong stance on how I manage my notifications nowadays on my phone. I never used to, but I found it was so disrupting, not controlling my own environment. And so now I only have 2 notifications on my phone, and I don't even have an email notification. It's literally just text message and phone calls. That's it. Everything else is turned off. And there's a reason for that. There's a time and place to manage your time. Time's super important. It doesn't matter if you're not making money, even in a job. Time's very important to put aside for different things that are important to you. So if you're getting distracted every minute or every however many notifications you get, then I feel like it's a real negative thing for your brain.
Mm.
Yeah.
One thing you mentioned really early on in this episode was talking about a bit of life hacks or even just work hacks. Or do you
Mm,
find that you've got some apps that you use that are just that have come to be, yep, I must have these. They just help me get my
yep,
day organized, or it's a certain
absolutely.
tool. Anything that comes to mind?
Look, we have 14 different Chrome extensions that just make our life absolutely amazing. And I could probably share those with you. But the one that I really love is Loom screen recording. It's a really cool way to communicate to anyone you want in regards to your team members, other workers, if you're not face to face with them, to communicate a problem where you don't have to use email. I mean, sometimes we're in such a rush, we're typing out an email and we know what we want and we know what we're trying to achieve and the goal of that email, whatever it is, but then you're not conveying the message properly and then it gets lost in transition, which causes frustration. So I found that Loom is a absolutely successful app and I use it every single day. What happens is you record something, whether it's yourself or you record on your screen, whatever you're trying to show someone, and then it gives you a link and you can send that link to anyone you want and it's always available there and you can download it, you can put it on YouTube, you do whatever you like. But I did my entire training platform for my team, the whole onboarding experience for putting a new team member in and all the different things and aspects that we do in our business is all systemized by using that one tool of video recording. It's crazy. So I love that tool. But there's heaps of others too, like absolutely heaps of other great tools out there as well.
Mm. And are you a mobile phone app guy where you
Yep.
productivity or some other
Yeah,
tool?
yeah, definitely. I mean, on the phone, we use Slack. Slack's a really important tool for us because we have a remote team doing certain jobs and work for us, like virtual assistants and things like that. So yeah, we use that pretty much probably every hour. So we use that a fair bit. Yeah,
Um, do you feel like you've sampled a few over the years? I can kind of relate a little bit in the
yeah.
sense that there's always some new gadget, new widget,
Oh
and you're
yes,
like, do I spend the time to consider if this is any better than the one I'm using?
yeah.
Sometimes you get drawn in because it's shiny and new.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Shiny object syndrome.
is it?
Oh yeah, yeah. Look, I've been lost in that many a times trying to build the business and work out what's going to be the most suitable direction for the technology we're going to use. Um, everyone used to be a big Microsoft 365 fan. Don't want to speak ill about that, but I prefer Google Workplace. It is absolutely amazing. No need for a tech. I mean, you can learn it. There is techs out there that will implement it for you if you have a bit time poor. But if you want to learn it yourself, you can get all the training you want online, pretty much free through YouTube. And you can set up a Google Workplace, and you don't need a tech guy to set up emails and do email signatures. There's so much software out there now that you can do a lot of this work yourself, or train an administration staff member to do this work. Whereas before, you might have to wait who knows how long, depending on how great your IT service was, for someone to do that work. Where now is you can just train a person that's in administration to do this work. So I think technology, from a positive point of view, has done so much, and I feel like business owners don't even know about it because they just don't know even what keywords to type into Google, right, to find what they need. So that's another cool thing I think that's happened over the last few years that I found really beneficial.
Hmm.
Mm.
I like the story that you're basically painting the picture that you're self-made and that you've pursued areas to just learn it yourself,
Yeah.
and then. But I've also noticed that it sounds like you're handing that over, or at least equipping people with
Mm.
those same tools so that they can then. You're not doing everything in the business.
No.
You've perhaps looked at virtual assistants and other ways
Yeah.
to become more efficient.
Absolutely.
Was that a hard transition?
Yes, it was. When you really are hands on and you really just like to get things done, and you may have a bit of anxiety because sometimes I have a bit of anxiety about getting things done, even though I'm achieving so much and I know it. You get a bit of anxiety about not achieving enough quick enough. So you're racing like a horse at the track, and you feel like you're not doing enough. So I found that that experience was hard because you have to then calm down, take some time, create a system that works, and make sure that whatever that system you're creating is easily trainable to the person that's going to do that work. And you know what else? It's got to be enjoyable for that person to learn too, and proactive. Sometimes you can just write down a system on a piece of paper to start with, and then share that with a team. But if you can transfer that into a video training, like we've done for our team, they just go, "Wow, I've never really." That's that. Well, that's their response that we've had. We've onboarded another 3 or 4 people this week, and they've gone, "Wow, we've never seen this before." And I'm like, "I've never really created it before either. This is my first time, and it's just because of all the experience." and knowing what it's like being frustrated all the time in my growth as a business owner and hating that feeling and trying to eliminate that feeling as much as possible. So, yeah.
You mentioned the two words "calm down," which just really
Mm.
jumped out at something that probably doesn't happen in most cases, where
Mm.
someone sees the goal, they're just frantically trying to get there,
Yep.
but it's perhaps so the calm down stage, is that a purposeful thing? Do you find yourself thinking, all right, like, do you have a little bit of a pattern interrupter where you just
Mm.
step away from things, or is it just ingrained in you now that you just know that's what works in
Um,
your model?
yeah, look, it's only I think I think you come and go from that model, say for as a model, like how you manage yourself. So yes, sometimes I do it extremely well, and I'm like so good at it, and then other days I let it slip, and I'll be like way past the frustration stage, and I'll be saying to myself, "I'm not getting up until this is done. Right? I'm just going to finish this now." And that's probably not the best way to achieve it, right? Because you're not in a clear, focused mindset. So therefore, you win some and you lose some. It's just depending on which battle you want to win and which one that you want to lose. So I always find that there's no perfect recipe. Everyone's going to go through this. From what I've read too, everyone goes through this. So in our space, in
Mm.
our business mindset space. So
If you were going to take a break, would you head out and go to the gym? Would you go to a movie? Would you just go for a walk around the local area? What's something
yeah,
that's non-work that would give you that break?
look, I'd probably just go for a little walk. I mean, if I've got severe amounts of frustration, I do a bit of martial arts. So I go to a gym and do martial arts training and stuff. Or I've got a bag at home, I might do some of that. But it'd have to be a pretty severe circumstance for me to get to that level these days. Maybe in the past I would go straight to that, but now I can just go for a walk, or maybe I can have a chat to my partner Susie and she can calm me down because she's the yin to my yang. So therefore it's easier now, right? So, but in the past, yeah, it would have been. I could have stayed in that mindset for a lot longer. I could have been there for maybe half a day potentially, but nowadays it's not like that at all.
Mm.
So, yeah,
And a bit of life in the day of Tim. Sorry, a little bit day in the life of Tim.
yep,
Sorry,
yep.
if is it you find your routines a daily routine where you just you're going through it, or is it quite a varying? You've got the family as well, right?
Yep, yep.
So yeah, what's your week like?
Well, I'm not the best person on routine. I will admit that, but I do have a routine. I've found over the years, I always tried to implement a certain routine that I'd read from other people. And I found that if you try to push things way, way too hard to change who you are as a person, then it sometimes is not the best. So, my routine in the morning, I'll wake up anytime before 7 o'clock, depending on what's happening, and depends how hard I've worked the night before. Because sometimes I work into the night because I'm trying to finish something. And that's cool because then we'll balance that lifestyle out with another day where I might finish at 3 o'clock to spend time with family. It just depends how I want to choose what I want to do, right? Or what we choose as a family. So therefore, what I try to do is I get up in the morning. I usually just wash my face, do my things, and then always just have a coffee. I used to have breakfast on and off, but I found as I got older, and I'm only 36 now, but I found as I got older that wasn't agreeing with me as much, and I felt a bit lethargic from it. And we do gym 2 or 3 times a week generally, as much as possible. But sometimes depending on the commitment of family, because we have a big family, we push that to the side. I wouldn't recommend pushing those things to the side, but that's just how it is for me. And then the rest of the day is work, and I don't usually have much of a lunch break. I like to work and eat. It's just my thing, and I don't feel like I want to change it either because I'm not unhappy with it. So why change it if I'm not unhappy with it? If I need to take time for myself, I do. If I want to take a bit of time out and do some training and learn something new, I'll take that time out and learn. Because I feel like it's just so important just to make sure that you're doing things that are right for you and the people closest to you. And that's all you really got to do. I mean, you can have the most stringent routine. Like I read somewhere yesterday that Mark Wahlberg gets up at 2:30 in the morning and trains gym 4 times a day, and or something like that. And I'm like, damn, he looks so good. I wish I had a body like that. But I don't know if I'd want to do that. Maybe later on down the track, my life will change and I'll pivot and do something different. But that's the way it is for me at the moment.
It's amazing. It's amazing those pieces of content that just cut through. I saw the exact same clip,
Yeah.
and again, I'm not I'm rarely on the social media trying to like
Yeah,
see everything, but
yeah.
it
Pops
reaches
up.
you.
It
Yeah,
does. It
it
comes
gets
up.
you.
Yep.
So someone's properly engineered that, or
Yep.
the algorithm got you.
They got us for sure.
Anyway, as long as it's a positive influence,
Yeah.
then we'll take it for what it is.
That's it.
Cool. One of the aspects we like to bring out is the idea of celebrating. The grind, the hustle, it's all good.
Mm.
When's the celebration? When's that payoff? And I think waiting too long can take its toll on lots of people. Yourself as an individual, your family, your family's waiting for you to.
Yeah.
When is it enough type thing?
Yeah. Definitely.
Do you see have you recently celebrated anything, or do you see one on the horizon where you can be like, you know what, end of this year, that's our goal?
Yeah. Look, last year we did something really different. We went on working holidays on the school holidays where we took our laptop because we're in a laptop world of business. We just take our laptop. We have a remote team or a team, and they work from a computer too. And we went traveling and camping for the whole holidays. We got a camper trailer and we did all that, and it was pretty good. Like it has its frustrations when you first started out because you got a big family, but it was really really good, and we found that really rewarding. So we've got those types of goals to do those types of things. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Work and travel, and it's easy to do. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, to hear that you've got the family, I'm just curious about the connection of the two. I can relate a little bit in the sense that in building something, I'm thinking more about at some point. I don't want it to just end with me. I'd like to hand that off and pass it along to future generations, and almost pursuing areas that you hope your family's interested in.
Yeah.
Is this a business that you think will have a generational aspect, or is it just sort of in the moment now, and maybe that creates some wealth, and then you just pivot into something else? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, interesting. I for so long wanted to leave a legacy for my last name because I felt like my family were always hard workers, and it was a real big part of why I was driving so hard for success in the early days. Nowadays, because I'm a little bit more patient as a human, I guess. Yeah, look, a legacy is important. Is this going to be the legacy for my kids? Possibly. Who knows? It's a really interesting world, but I feel like that it's hard to know if there is going to be a legacy for them to take over, depending on where the world goes and how technologically advanced we get, because it's just come such a long way since 2007, really. So yeah, look, I want a legacy, but that legacy doesn't mean that I would particularly just hand over the keys and say, please don't stuff it up, because I've heard those stories from people I've met. I've heard some crazy thing to say. It takes 2 generations to create something and 1 to lose it or something. And I was just laughed when I heard that statement. But yeah, I think it'd be cool to leave a legacy for the family. But I feel like it's the legacy that I would prefer to leave is that of education and mentoring and being a more positive role model and creating or getting the kids to understand that they are the most important person in their life for their mind. And then whatever they want to do, then they'll get it from just being, in the right frame of mind. That's just really what it's all about. That's what I have learned over the last 10 years. If you can just instill that in your kids that they can achieve those things, I think then that is the legacy because they don't need to follow in my footsteps. As long as they reach any personal success for themselves, I really am proud of them. That's fine. That's okay. So I think that's more of the legacy I would leave. It's not really having a few $100 million in the bank. It's not really that for me. I mean, if that happens, then fantastic. But that's not the legacy I'm looking for. So, yep.
Interesting. Yeah, it's sort of that value of what does society value? Is it money? Is it ultra wealth?
Yeah.
Being here on the Gold Coast in Brisbane, Queensland, there's sort of a mix of various different backgrounds. People have money. Sometimes it's more challenging areas. So probably we're getting close to wrapping up, but I was just curious on the your knowledge about the Australian landscape and maybe some people that have a legacy here. So if you think about people that Australians and generational wealth, is there something that pops into your mind that whether it's a Queenslander or somewhere national, that somebody that's made an impact, passed it along to their family in a positive sense, I guess?
That's a good one. Actually, to be honest, nothing really is coming to mind that much. It's something that's an interesting question. Maybe I'll go home and do a bit of research on that tonight. No one for me, really, no.
There's one that jumps out at me, primarily based on looking at these. Every time I look at a piece of software, I'm always assuming that it's developed out of the US and it's just reached global rollout. it always surprised me when I stumble onto something. I'm like, that was developed in Sydney. That was developed. So you might be familiar with Atlas. I can't even pronounce it. Atlassian, or
Okay.
Jira. It's like a project management tool.
Okay, yep.
And it's absolute powerhouse.
Is it?
And it was developed by Mike Cannon Brooks is the guy. I mean, these guys would be 30s, maybe 35s, maybe 40 now. But I mean, I think they're at billionaire status.
Wow.
I mean, it's not about that. It's just about how humble these guys are.
Yeah.
And they're spinning it off into all sorts of charitable,
Yep.
just community-based things.
That's
But it's not even that. It's more just they're not overwhelmed, or they're not flexing on taking advantage and being like, well, we're going to control the whole landscape.
We've seen that a bit out there in the world, haven't we?
Right.
Yep.
So I kind of like that. And if there's more of those things, I think that's a good way to
totally
model to follow. So
yeah,
I
totally
like
agree
it.
with that.
But long road to get there, but it's nice to see. And those are probably hard work to get there, and
Of course.
a bit of luck and timing. But it's neat to see. And I'm not sure globally if people are aware that some of these super, super useful tools are actually built locally.
It's actually surprising. I found there's so much entrepreneurial spirit coming out of New Zealand. There's so many things and innovations that have come out of New Zealand in all different industries. And you don't know until you know, do you? So that example you given, I can't remember of the ones I've read recently, but there's just so much inspiration coming out of New Zealand as well. Yep.
There we go. I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to have some guests that are familiar in developing that space. But it's a little look in for everybody from overseas. And if you can't travel to Australia, I encourage you to get here and get on the ground and have a chat with people. That's a lot of stories that are not being told. So
that's very true.
There we go. Tim, Austin, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. And we welcome back anytime to get the update. Just before we wrap up, we want to get a feel of where you might be headed in, say, a year's time.
Yep.
You've told your story. If we get you back in a year's time, where do you think you'd be?
Oh, good question. I think that we would have definitely touched on and helped a lot of businesses. I had this thought in my mind a little while ago that eventually I'd like to change our branding just a little bit to be called the Growth Factory. That's what I'd like, Traffic Coach, the Growth Factory. I mean, right now our brand is Traffic Coach, your marketing department. I feel like the journey we're on at the moment, if everybody opts in regards to clients, they opt into our program that we're about to launch like really hard this year, I feel like they're going to get so much out of it from all different aspects. So that's our journey. We've got some financial goals behind that. We've got some really cool personal goals too as well for the family. But I think in 12 months' time, COVID or no COVID, I'm really not concerned about that. I feel like there's still heaps of opportunity. I think we're going to be in a really, really positive space. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we can certainly share some links out for people to refer back and follow you.
Absolutely.
Is there anything you want to share, like an Instagram profile or anything like that?
Yeah, look, I think the main thing to share is just the website. If you're looking for support, if you're frustrated in the way your business is running, whether it's systems, processes, whether it's marketing, anything like that, we're definitely there to support you. I mean, just go to www.trafficcoach.com.au.
There it is. And we'll make sure we get links through to you guys as well. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. And that's the Aussie Ambitions podcast with Tim Austin. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks.